What up, guys? John Gervasi, Full Check Podcast is back. I need to finish 32 and 32, and I actually do not know when the season started, so we got to get this through. Today, it's the Chicago Blackhawks. I have two Chicago Blackhawks jersey, and I am a Sharks fan, but I will say that the Blackhawks probably have the best sweaters in all of hockey. By any team not named the Montreal Canadiens. So yeah, I've not a fan of the team. I like some players on the team, but not a fan of the team so much. But I do like the Chicago Blackhawks jerseys. I mean, the Blackhawk, uh, the Indian head is iconic. The jersey is iconic, and I mean, they're probably aside from the White Sox being really good this year, the Blackhawks have really been the team of Chicago in the last 10 years or so. So yeah, I decided to do it justice today by putting on the sweater. And let's get into this. So the last 3 years for the Chicago Blackhawks, 2018, 2019 was the first year missing the playoffs in a long time. As you know, they won three cups in 6 years. Have one of the best, if not the best. I still think Mike Modano is better right now, but Patrick Kane, one of the best American-born hockey players. Captain Sirius, Jonathan Taves. And they had a defense, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook, which we'll get to both of them in a minute. And then the goalie situation was Corey Crawford for two of those cup runs, Antti Niemi, guys like that, guys like Patrick Sharp. So this team has had a lot of success. And last year, in 2018, 2019, of the thing that non-Chicago fans wanted to have happen finally happened. They missed the playoffs. So they went 36, 34, and 12 with 84 points, 270 goals for and 292 goals against with a differential of minus 22. And I think that obviously the OT losses really, really hurt. If you win those 12 games, you have 48 wins. If you win those 12 games, you're 48 and 34. So you're probably in the playoffs. I don't know how many. I'm gonna go look. We can look to see how many points they were. I don't think they were too far out of the playoffs. So I think that there was still kind of a sense that, hey, we're still a good club. Yeah, they were actually out of the final wild card spot. They were 6 games out of the final wild card spot behind division rivals, Colorado Avalanche, and they were 2 out of third in the wild card. So honestly, as a Blackhawks fan, if you're a Blackhawks fan, that's probably not the year that you had been accustomed to over the last 10, 11 years. But still a winning record. But things that could be improved of. I mean, you finished with 84 points. I think the goal differential was the big thing. I'm pretty sure that was the first year that Corey Crawford might have gotten hurt. I'm not too sure. My memory sucks. So 2019, 2020, 32, 30, and 8, 72 points, 212 goals for, 218 against, and a differential of minus 6. They did make the playoffs this year because of, the wonderful COVID bubble, but whatever. Beat the Oilers in the play-in round 3-1, then fell to Vegas 4-1. So Chicago this year, and we'll look at their standing because this year they were relatively close to the last playoff spot anyway. If we go to 2019, 2020, I was John in these videos, but if we look, Chicago had 72 points. They were 2 back at Arizona. They were 5 back at Minnesota, 8 back at Winnipeg, 7 back at Calgary. They were 6 back of the Canucks and Preds. So, I mean, realistically, 2 or 3 games difference, 2 or 3 wins here and there, and Chicago's looking at a play-in series against. So they played Edmonton. They played the number 5 seed. But you swap Chicago with Nashville, they're playing Arizona. You swap them with Vancouver or Minnesota, they're playing Vancouver and Minnesota, vice versa. And if you switch them with Calgary or Winnipeg, they're playing Calgary or Winnipeg. And I'm one of the few. I had Montreal beating Pittsburgh, and I had Chicago beating Edmonton, just because Edmonton is literally two players. They have Draisaitl, they have McDavid. There's no goalie, there's no defense. So I thought Chicago could pull off the upset. Then they ran into a Vegas team, and I mean it happens. I mean, Chicago wasn't even meant to make the playoffs. But that being said, they were 5 points, 4 points. They were 7 points out of the eighth playoff spot when play had stopped. So do they make those 7 points up and get the eighth seed? I mean, yeah, they barely made the playoffs, but they made the playoffs and pulled off an upset. It's like when the Seahawks played the Saints in the playoffs and had a 7-9 record and upset the defending champion New Orleans Saints. Now, granted, Edmonton did not win a Stanley Cup, and they probably won't with Connor McDavid, but you upset a pretty good team in Edmonton. Last year is where the wheels kind of fell off at the end. Started out slow, picked it up, 24-25-7 with 55 points, 61 goals for, 186 against, a -25. I think this is the year that really shocked everybody. Not with how bad they were down the stretch, but where they were, middle of the season. They were in a playoff spot for a majority of the year or close to it. And I remember, I think they started winless, and I don't remember, but they started really bad. And the Detroit Red Wings trajectory was projecting up. And the Red Wings are a better team on paper right now as opposed to what the Blackhawks were. And I think going into the first Red Wings Blackhawks game, it was a rivalry game, so you didn't know what was going to happen. And two, I think everybody was starting to jump back on the Red Wings bandwagon saying, hey, we're finally back. Look at us. We could make the playoffs, and Chicago could be the team that's finally out of the playoffs. And that game happens, and Kevin Lankinen is one heck of a goaltender. And they beat the Red Wings. And I'm pretty sure they beat them all year. They might have lost 1 or 2 to the Red Wings, but Chicago beat Detroit up. Like, the Blackhawks physically dominated Detroit in that first game. And I think it set the tone for the rivalry for that year, because this is the first time since Detroit went to the Eastern Conference that we had a full season of more than just 1 or 2 Red Wing and Blackhawk games. And I think the players ate that up, but I also think Chicago, they had bulletin board material. Everybody's picking Detroit to beat us. Everybody's saying we're not that good, we're done, our window's closed, and that Detroit's window is just opening up. And Chicago went in, took that as bulletin board material, and the rest is history. And Chicago was closer to the playoffs this year than the Red Wings. Special teams wise, very good on the power play. They were 11th in the league at 21.7%. And on the penalty kill, they were 28th in the league at 76.8%. And that right there is a big killer for a team that, especially in hockey, your special teams sometimes is going to be your savior. Your penalty kill has to be God tier at that point. You have a really good power play, and your penalty kill is just awful. Team leaders, Alex DeBrincat had 32 goals, Patrick Kane with 51 assists. Patrick Kane also led the team in points with 66. Alex DeBrincat and Riley Stillman had a +3. And Kevin Lankinen, who I just mentioned, went 17, 14, and 5, a .909 save percentage and a .301 goals against. Kevin Lankinen came out of nowhere. Because going into the season, the biggest thing for the Blackhawks was who was going to start in goal, and Lankinen wasn't mentioned. I think Lankinen was going to be in Rockford, and it was between Malcolm Subban and Colin Delia, which I think a lot of people thought Delia was going to be the goalie of the future. He had a couple games taken over for an injured Corey Crawford where Delia played very, very well. But it didn't turn out that way. Delia became the third goalie on the depth chart by mid-season, maybe late season. And Malcolm Subban is just a bad goaltender. He started out awful. Now, granted, he came back. Uh, sa- um, Malcolm Subban came back. He played a little bit better towards the end of the season, but I think Kevin Lankinen is the guy of the future, and they also got another goalie that we'll get to in a second. But Lankinen, and it's a goalie that Lankinen can learn from. Like, this is a season where Kevin Lankinen can play the same amount of games or more that he did last year and learn from a very, very high quality goaltender. And I think that's going to be a big key this year with the Chicago Blackhawks is their goaltending. So transactions, they signed John McCabe. If we go look at the cap friendly, they signed John McCabe to a 4-year contract. So they signed into a 4x4 contract. I gotta look at Seth Jones' contract. But so they signed John McCabe. They signed Juar Kyra. That was a 2-year contract for $975,000 a year. Hagel, looking for Hagel. I don't see. Yeah, Brendan Hagel, 3-year contract, 1.5 per year. And Nylander he was a restricted free agent, so he got $874,000 from the Chicago Blackhawks. Seth Jones, we're going to get to him in a second with the trade, but I want to look at his contract here. So he has an 8-year contract for $76 million. And actually, that may still be less than what Erik Karlsson is getting. If we look at Erik Karlsson, yeah, it's still less. So Karlsson's making $92 million for the next 8 years. People complain about the Seth Jones contract, but hey, as a Sharks fan, at least you're not paying for a guy who can't stay on the ice. Seth Jones is productive. So, but we'll get to him in a second. Subtractions, they lost Zadorov to Calgary, Vinny Hinostroza to Buffalo, and I think that's a bad move on Vinny Hinostroza's part because Buffalo is just absolutely terrible. And then 2, Vinny Hinostroza really hasn't had the best success outside of Chicago. So that'll be interesting. I think Hinostroza may have made a bad decision going to Buffalo. They lost Camp to Toronto and P.S. Suter to the Detroit Red Wings. Now, the biggest thing for the Chicago Blackhawks in the offseason was the trades. And there were some big ones. So the first trade, they traded Duncan Keith and Tim Soderlund to the Edmonton Oilers for Caleb Jones and a 2022 conditional 3rd-round pick. Actually got to find Chicago Blackhawk trades because this is a big trade in terms of what they're getting. So if we look here at the trade, Caleb Jones, he's only making $850,000. So you get rid of $5 million off the books. That's fantastic. Tim Soderlund making nothing. He's an AHL junior player. The pick is conditional, so it's a conditional 3rd-round pick. Conditions, if the Oilers make the 2022 Stanley Cup Finals and Keith is in the top 4 of playoffs time on ice during the first 3 rounds, the pick upgrades to a 2022 2nd round. So my biggest problem with that is, the Oilers, they're a favorite every year to make the Stanley Cup. We get it. McDavid's really good. One of those conditions, while not easy, could be met. I don't think Duncan Keith is going to be top 4 in time on ice because Duncan Keith is old. So the Oilers could make the Cup final. I don't think they are, but I think that this is going to stay a 3rd-round draft pick for the Chicago Blackhawks in 2022. I don't see really any scenario in the Western Conference where the Edmonton Oilers make the Stanley Cup finals, especially with the divisions going back. they'll make the playoffs out of the Pacific Division. I actually I keep forgetting who's in divisions because the NHL kind of ruined them last year. But if we look at division wise, you've got Vegas playoff team, possibly Laner. We the book is out on Laner. The Kings are back. I think that the Kings will be good this year. Coyotes, no. Vancouver, possibly. Anaheim, no. It's Vegas, Calgary, and Edmonton, and Los Angeles as the four teams I can see out of the Pacific that even have a chance at the playoffs. Edmonton will probably finish first or second. I don't see Edmonton really making the playoffs, so I think that pick will end up being the third rounder instead of that second. And then we get to probably the biggest trade. Seth Jones acquired from the Blue Jackets for Tampa Bay's first round pick in 2021, sixth round pick in 22, and they traded Adam Boqvist to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a 21 first round pick, which turned out to be Cole Sillinger, and a 21 second round pick, which turned out to be Alexei Haimosalimi. I can't say that. And a 2022 conditional first round pick. Sorry, roommate. If Chicago wins one of the 2022 draft lotteries, the pick becomes their 2023 first round pick. That's pretty big. So back to Seth Jones, because I was talking about it earlier. I don't think his contract's that bad. I really don't. I think that it could be worse. It could be an Erik Karlsson pick. And people want to point out the minus. And yes, minuses are bad, but Columbus was just not good last year. And the guy puts up assists. He's not a big goal scorer, but he can pass the puck. I think that this is going to be a good trade for the Chicago Blackhawks. Seth Jones gets a change of scenery. He's playing on a team that has been very, very good defensively in the past. I do think that John Quenneville or Joel Quenneville would have been a better coach for Seth Jones, if I'm being honest. But I think that trade's going to be very good. Carolina acquires a 22 third-round pick from Chicago for a 21 third-round pick from Carolina, and they take Tage Harding. Chicago Blackhawks, the second big trade, Marc-Andre Fleury for Mikhail Hakkarainen. They got Marc-Andre Fleury virtually for nothing, and Hakkarainen is still going to play in the Chicago Blackhawks system. The Golden Knights want Jack Eichel, and I mean, it's painfully obvious. But I'll get to the Marc-Andre Fleury thing in a bit. Let's finish up these trades. Chicago Blackhawks acquired Tyler Johnson and a 23 second-round pick from the Tampa Bay Lightning for the contract of retired Brent Seabrook. So Tampa Bay shed salary. It looks like it's actually raining outside, too. The Chicago Blackhawks acquire a 22 third-round pick, Toronto's 22 third-round pick, and the Calgary Flames acquire Nikita Zadorov. So, all in all, honestly, I think Marc-Andre Fleury obviously is going to help. He's going to help be very, very beneficial for Kevin Lankinen to just kind of sit and watch and learn. How many goalies can you think of that get the chance to, that are young and that get the chance to play behind a Vezina winning goaltender? You might get a young goalie, but he's probably a journeyman. I think this is perfect for Kevin Lankinen. I think Seth Jones and Marc-Andre Fleury, and then Seth gets to play with his brother Caleb. So honestly, the moves that Chicago made in the offseason, I think that they'll be back in the playoffs. You still got Patrick Kane. You still got Jonathan Toews. You've got DeBrincat. You got Tyler Johnson now, Dominic Kubalik, Brett Connolly, Dylan Strome, Brendan Hagel. I mean, this team on paper is a playoff team. So let's look at their draft, and then we will give a grade, and we will get going. first round, they selected Nolan Allen. Then they selected Kirby Doc's brother, Colton Doc, Tage Harding, who we just talked about, Ethan Del Mastro, Victor Sternborg, Ilya Safonov, Connor Kelly, and Jalen Louipin. And if we look at their first round pick, obviously, young kid, 18 years old, probably not going to make the team this year. So this is a little shorter. I just want to get some out there. Honestly, the offseason for the Blackhawks, I'm going to give out my first A. I think the Blackhawks had an A- offseason. The additions of Marc-Andre Fleury and Seth Jones are going to be a big help. Jonathan Toews is coming back. You're getting a full season of Kirby Doc. I mean, honestly, to me, the sky's the limit with this team. We talked about you've heard Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams' last dance with the Packers. I think this is Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane's last dance with the Blackhawks, and I think the Blackhawks know that. Jonathan Toews is not getting any younger or any healthier, for that matter. And I don't know if I mentioned it. Carolina, I think I mentioned that they were one of my Stanley Cup picks, a team. Chicago's another one. I'm going to go out and say it. I think this team is Stanley Cup or bust this year. I think anything less than reaching the Stanley Cup finals for this team might be a disappointment for the amount of money they've spent and the moves they've made. I would say probably a 40 to 45 win team. I would say probably closer to 45 wins for the Chicago Blackhawks. But I think this team has a chance to be very good this year. I think that the Chicago Blackhawks, they have retooled. I don't know. They called it a rebuild, but I don't know if they're really ready to start that rebuild yet. Maybe get one more cup for Taves and Kaner. But we will see. Like I said, A- offseason. So next up on the docket, I am almost positive. I have no idea who the next team is. Oh, let's see. Chicago. The next team is looks like Colorado's next. So the Avalanche. So yeah. Tune in next time. Colorado Avalanche 32 and 32. Follow me at @full_check on Twitter. Friday will be media day for the Central Michigan University Division II club hockey team. Yours truly will be there with interviews, hopefully with the coach and a bunch of the players, some key players, and then the greatest position of all time, goalies. So, yeah. Full check. I'm out.